On the field, off the field, sports talk, entertainment, and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 112 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventone.
Welcome to the official overreaction of NFL Week 1.
Oh, this is Overreaction Monday.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Like you said, all day, I listened to people talk about the games yesterday, and it's like, and they're all saying, like, very, very, very definitive answers. I'm just like, it's Week 1. Like, so much is going to be changed by Week 4. Like, we're all going to have no idea what's going on. Pitchers probably going to suck. Steelers might be 3-1, dominating the world.
Yeah, we had Skip Bayless coming out of the woodwork saying Dak Prescott's this good. We've had that almost every overreaction since he walked into the league. We had everybody saying that the Baltimore Ravens offense is the new way to play offense in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is definitely back for year 2. Guys, we have every single overreaction you could possibly think of this week. The Bears might not score a touchdown all year. Matt Nagy was overrated. Everything. We have it here today. Guys, be sure to follow on Spotify and iTunes. Download, subscribe, give us that 5-star review. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. We have a very jam-packed week for you. Like I said, we have all of the overreactions. We are bringing back NFL Word Association. We will talk a lot about Week 1 in the NFL. Obviously, we have the Saucy Six-Pack. We will talk about college football Week 2. Talk about college football Week 3 preview. Give you the bets that we have given you every week up until now. And maybe the biggest news of the week, even though we had all that football, Antonio Brown. Leighton C. Antonio Brown update. So this week was absolutely crazy for Antonio Brown. I think it was maybe the most jam-packed craziness we've had, basically, for one player since the Aaron Hernandez stuff. I mean, I know it wasn't at that scale, but we had him completely blowing up on Mike Mayock on Thursday. We get reports that he's going to be suspended. Gruden comes out that he'll be there for Week 1. Then the very next day, he requests a trade from the Raiders after they said that he would be playing, or a release from the Raiders. He gets released, then basically signs with the Patriots that very same day. A lot of craziness. I might have been off with my timetable. It doesn't matter. All we know is Antonio Brown is now a Patriot. First off, latency, I have to ask, what the hell?
So, Antonio Brown, man, whenever John Gruden said on Hard Knocks, there's not that much drama going on there. It wasn't because the Hard Knocks cameras were there. Because day one, they're gone, he tells his boss he's going to punch him in the face and punch the football. All because he's going to get fined. Now, Dippers, I believe most of our listeners are, older adults, have graduated college or whatever they did after high school, and are now working full-time, or at least part-time, has a real-world experience. For those of you who are not doing that, just so you know, at some point in time in your life, you will get into it with your boss and or co-workers. Shit, I got into it with my boss last Friday, about as good as I got into it with anybody ever. But guess what? Today, it was all fine. So Antonio Brown, a few problems with what he did. Number 1, he was already out of lives. He missed practice. He skipped meetings. So that's strike 1. Strike 2, he told the boss to hit him in the face.
That's not a good start.
There are a few things you can't do when you get into it with your boss. One of those things is telling him to hit him in the face.
Physically threatening your boss is not a good idea.
Don't do that, Dippers. Do not do that. You're not good at your job. Antonio Brown is at his.
It will not affect only your job now, but probably your future job in some way, shape, or form.
What about this was Antonio Brown was objectively wrong with what he was arguing.
Yes.
He was fine because he did not go to practice. He didn't go to the practice.
If you don't go to work, you don't get paid.
I don't understand. He went out of Oakland. That's why this happened. At the time, we're just he's nuts, but now we just know he went out of Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. Obviously, it came out that he had hired, a social media expert to figure out how to get released from Oakland. I doubt that guy basically came out and said, okay, step 1, go fire off a racial slur at your boss, threaten to punch him in the face, punt a football, be the craziest guy in the room, to the point where Vontaze Burfict is the clearest head in the room, peeling you away from your 60-year-old boss that you're about to fight.
That's a part of the story we're talking about. Vontaze Burfict saved Mike Mayock's life.
Yes, I think that says a lot about Vontaze Burfict now, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in a bad situation where he continually acted up until his team got rid of him, and, hey, maybe the guy learned from his mistakes. Mm-hmm. So most people can develop and learn. Antonio Brown does not. I think this is just absolutely crazy. I think people aren't making enough about the Antonio Brown situation on the stage of Antonio Brown is not right. This is absolutely crazy because he is still speaking as if he is the victim to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. I don't think he understands how this stuff works.
Him playing the honestly, I'm almost sad the Antonio Brown Raiders era is over.
Me too.
Because that is about the most addicting thing you could be into because it was nonstop.
Yes.
Like a lot of things. We and Jake went to a college teacher that says things in the government move slowly. She moves very slowly. You get one update, then like a month later you get another one. This one was every fucking day.
Every hour.
You were getting hourly updates on new shit that happened. And then, after all these updates, John Gruden said he's going to play. You think, okay, everything's good. Then the next morning, he called and he says, fuck this, I want out. Release me.
Yes.
And he got cut.
It's crazy. So, latency, second off, we're going to talk about how this is from the Raiders' standpoint. What do you make about all of this just from the Raiders' standpoint here?
So I'm happy that they just admitted that they were wrong and just cut ties. They didn't pay him a single dollar. Nothing was gone except they got embarrassed a little bit. But the bigger issue is the differences in Mike Mayock and John Gruden.
Absolutely. I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
Mike Mayock is there to be your boss. Mike Mayock is there to do a job of winning a football team, and he is a professional, and he wants to win games. He is not there to be your buddy. John Gruden wants to be your buddy. And John Gruden was going to let Antonio Brown play later tonight.
Yes.
But obviously he's not released. And at some point in time, Raiders ownership, if things like this continue to happen, the team keeps getting embarrassed from a PR standpoint, ownership has to decide which way they want to go. Do they want to have the players coach that wants to win so bad he will willingly let a wiretap phone call be put on Instagram, or do they want to have a player's coach that will conform to what the ownership wants? And more often than not, the latter of those two things will succeed in the NFL.
Yes.
And in life in general.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Like, do you think Bill Belichick or any guy that we see in high regards in the NFL, even a player's coach like Mike Tomlin, man, you look at Mike Tomlin being the ultimate player's coach, he would have never signed off for his voice to be put, or a phone call between him and Antonio Brown to be released to the public.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the ultimate player's coach here in Mike Tomlin. I think this says a lot about the Raiders with where they're at with Gruden. I think Gruden probably needs to be next on the chopping block here, unfortunately. I think he needs to get back into the Monday night booth because him being a head coach, this is not a good look. And you started off, let's think all the way back to the draft week, okay? The Raiders sent everybody home except for John Gruden and Mike Mayock because they didn't know who they could trust. Now you get into a situation where you think, okay, Mike Mayock and John Gruden are working on this thing with like a great duo between the two of them. They have the same agenda. Everything's going well between the two. You have something like this that they drive a nail between wanting to win football games and having a guy who's absolutely crazy in the locker room. And John Gruden took the stand behind Antonio Brown. Every time Antonio Brown did something stupid, John Gruden was the first guy on the podium saying, hey, it's not Antonio Brown's fault. Frozen feet, not Antonio Brown's fault. The helmet thing, not Antonio Brown's fault. You have to draw a line here whenever you're trying to decide between should I protect the GM or the player who could potentially be gone this time next year. Mm-hmm. And he stood behind the player, which is absolutely crazy to me because it looked like these two had a great relationship as soon as they sent everybody home on draft week.
Yeah, and it's not even about the fact that he took the player's side, because that's what you have to do in the NFL today. It's the fact that he took the player's side after he called out the organization. It's just like Antonio Brown was the worst PR thing the Raiders have done probably ever. I mean, the Raiders have done some pretty shady things over several years. Like back in the Raider dynasty, I'm sure some pretty shady shit going on PR-wise, but this was a nightmare.
Absolutely.
Nightmare scenario from day one.
Absolutely. You know, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, what did you expect from Antonio Brown? He was a mess at the end with the Steelers.
Not that.
You don't expect him to go in there and try to fight the 60-year-old general manager and spew off racial slurs at him and threaten to punch him.
Like,
that's the last thing you expect.
Like, you couldn't write a story as good as this one. You can't write fiction as good as this was.
The only man who could come up with something this crazy is Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can't write it. It's so good.
So, the Patriots ended up signing him. Wait and see. What are your thoughts on the Patriots just from their standpoint now?
For one, I can guarantee you he's not pushed a phone call to him, Bill Belichick.
That will not happen.
And two, good job.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them. I do not understand NFL hard cap at all. I don't know how they had $15 million with incentives to give him, but they had it, and they got a top 5 receiver in the league. Now they're going to have Edelman in the slot, him and Josh Gordon out wide. Teams can't play zone against Tom Brady. One of those guys is going to be in single man cover. Tom Brady is going to find that guy probably pre-snap. This is a phenomenal football move.
Yes.
And I will go on a limb now and say Antonio Brown is an angel these last 15 games for the Patriots.
Yeah, he is going to be an absolute angel. I guarantee we don't see anything else come up out of this. Antonio Brown's going to be the quietest guy in the NFL. I can almost guarantee that. And a lot of people are going to question, Tom Brady can't throw the ball down the field, which is where we saw Antonio Brown make almost all of his plays with the Steelers. Guys, we are forgetting the fact that this is one of the top punt returners in the NFL too. And what is a screen pass? Basically a punt return, and it's going to be absolutely deadly. It's going to be a completely different look than what you saw him have success with the Steelers. But nonetheless, the guy is still an elite athlete. He's one of the best punt returners in the league, if that's what his job was. And a screen pass, I'm sorry to break it to you, this is going to work. This is going to be their bread and butter now.
Yeah, and did you see what Philip Dorsett did last night?
Philip Dorsett?
Yeah. Just help with defense twice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. And it wasn't even good balls. Like, they just threw him up there, and he was so open just because of the design of the McDaniels offense.
Yeah, and now, it's going to work.
Yes, it is absolutely going to work, unfortunately. So it is time, wait and see. Are you ready?
The best part of the show.
Best part of the show. I look forward to this for the next 16 weeks. It is NFL Sports or Word Association recap. Let's start it off. Biggest winner.
So I actually have two of these, and I have two because these teams might get talked about again all season. The Arizona Cardinals and the Buffalo Bills. They both came out of the gate absolutely terrible, nothing going for them at all. Ended up winning both games. There are now two teams, or two organizations that can go home last night, go to bed, and they're saying, okay, we have a foundation for something to go right. So, Bills, Cardinals, winners of the week.
I actually have two as well. Women and children. You are safe. Tyreek Hill is out for a few weeks, hospitalized, off the streets.
Might go on the IR.
Might go on the IR.
They're deciding that this week.
I have never in my sports life have I ever rooted for a guy to get hurt.
I know.
And whenever that happened, it was the most bittersweet moment ever.
It felt really weird, kind of like, oh, he's hurt. That's not going to be fun to watch him. But, oh, wait, Tyreek Hill's hurt. Okay.
It's different.
Yeah.
It just hits different. Biggest loser?
Melvin Gordon. All you needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, same one?
No. Anyone playing Sammy Watkins in fantasy, the guy went off for 9 catches, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns, over 42 fantasy points. And he's probably not that guy's best receiver.
No. Yeah.
Maybe this week.
Tough day at the office.
Tough day at the office.
Tough Monday.
Surprise.
Mariota looking better than Jameis Winston.
Oh, man, that's rough.
Jameis, that was a rough time.
Nobody's looked that bad in that offense.
That was really rough.
Lamar Jackson raised his career passing rating by 15 points on Sunday. You think about that for a second.
That's insane.
His career passing rating went up by 15 total points.
That's insane. We've hit, probably 12 starts now? That's insane.
Yeah. Dude, that's like raising your batting average by 50 points in a day.
That's a lot.
That's crazy. Disappointment.
The Steelers. Everyone. Whole team.
Adam Gase. He had a 4-0 turnover battle against the Jets. I'm not going to count the fumble at the last. That was the last play of the game. You knew a fumble was coming if they didn't score a touchdown. He had a pick six, a safety. His offense only scored 8 points, but he did set a record. He set the record. This is since 1950. No wide receiver has ever had 14 or more receptions without getting 100 yards. Jameis Crowder had 14 catches for 99 yards, but at least he was efficient with Le'Veon Bell. 23 touches, 92 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt rushing, 5.3 yards per catch. He is on pace to set a career low in both. Offensive wizard. Impact injury.
Cowboys cap space. Figured Dak was about to cripple it.
That's absolutely true. Quinnen Williams, C.J. Mosley. Without those two guys, the Jets, which they lost him halfway through the game, and it showed in the second half, it's basically the same exact Jets D that they rolled out there last year. WTF moment.
Mike Tomlin on 4th and 1 from the 1 yard line goes for a field goal, down 20-0. Well, on the previous drive, not even the same drive even, he went for it on 4th and 3. And got it.
That doesn't make any sense, especially with the biggest quarterback in the NFL. Maybe NFL history.
Yeah, that is a terrible play call.
40 players are now on pace for 1,000 yards receiving this year, and 10 players last year had 147 catches or 147 yards or more with 2 scores in a game. We had 4 already have 147 yards receiving with 2 scores. That puts us on pace for 64 players to have such games this year. Overreaction.
The Browns aren't going anywhere.
I have 2. Lamar Jackson is a good passer now, and Gardner Minshew getting fitted for his gold jacket. Get him a bust with the greatest mustache available. 22 for 25. That's 88%. 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, a passer rating of 122.5.
So you like Gardner Minshew?
I love Gardner Minshew.
Do you feel like he had a clear job and just went the total opposite direction?
Yeah, it went the complete opposite direction. I actually told you right before he got in the game, I said, this guy's actually good.
Before we get to your thoughts, I gotta have your thoughts on this stat I found today.
Let's hear it.
Since 2015, the New Orleans Saints have produced 32 100-yard receiving game, but receivers in the game.
Yes.
In that same time span, Julio Jones has 32 100 receiving games.
Oh my goodness.
Since 2015.
That's a crazy thought.
AB has 30.
Wow.
Nuts.
That's crazy.
You have thoughts for us?
Yes, I do.
It was all a dream. I used to read Run Up magazine.
So, just a little heads up. This is going to be completely different than what you've heard a lot.
Okay, here we go.
2010.
12 weeks in. Time to mix it up.
I'm trying to mix it up. 2010. Aaron Hernandez. 4 bodies represents the round the Patriots drafted him in. 2012. Alfonso Denard, Nebraska, punches a cop in the face, drafted in the 7th round by the Patriots 5 days later. 2016. Michael Floyd passes out drunk at a stoplight, signed legitimately 48 hours later by the Patriots. 2011, Albert Hainsworth, signed while facing sexual abuse charges. 2012, Aqib Talib, acquired in 2011, charged in 2011 with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and kicked a cab driver's ass in 2009. 2000, Corey Dillon, arrested for domestic battery on the Patriots in 2004. 2014, Josh Gordon, 4th failed drug test. 2017, reinstated to the NFL, traded to the Patriots in 2018. August 21st, 2019, Patrick Chung, arrested for possession of cocaine. September 8th, 2019, 6 tackles versus the Steelers, playing for the Patriots. Spygate, Deflategate, now Crackergate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Patriot way. Willie Taggart, how to lose a job in 10 days. Tyreek Hill's injury, it's for the children. Jaguars, need a quarterback? Call the Rams. I heard they have 2. Andy Dalton, finally, next step taken. Jameis Winston, not even Bruce Arians can fix that. Between Mike Zimmer and Gary Kubiak, can we really be surprised that Kirk Cousins only had 10 pass attempts? Tony Pollard, 13 carries, 24 yards. Jerry who? New York Football Giants. Saquon Barkley, 120 rush yards, 11 carries. I think I know why you lost. Cliff Kingsbury. Do you know what you call 60 dropbacks and 3 runs from your 5'8" quarterback? Sustainable. Do you know what you call 35-40 record at Texas Tech? Unsustainable. Adam Gase, offensive wizard. Life as an NFL head coach. 2016, number 29 offense. 2017, number 25 offense. 2018, number 30 offense. Now, he starts 2019 with the number 25 offense in the NFL. The last time Adam Gase had an offense in the top 15 in the NFL. His quarterback, Peyton Manning. Running back, C.J. Anderson. Tight end, Julius Thomas. Wide receiver, Demaryius Thomas. Wes Welker, Emmanuel Sanders. If he was head coach material, do you think that he would have gotten hired right away by John Elway instead of going out and getting Gary Kubiak that next year and winning a Super Bowl while Adam Gase got shipped to Chicago? Or do you think that he would have actually won a Super Bowl while he was there? Adam Gase fooled everyone, hasn't fooled me yet. And there's a new book out this week. It's titled How to Lose $21 Million in 24 Hours and Have to Pay Somebody to Show You How to Do It. And it was written by Antonio Brown. And those have been my thoughts.
Yeah, we didn't mention the fact that he hired social media consultants to talk about how to get cut faster.
That's unbelievable.
It's just a phenomenal story. Really, really phenomenal stuff out of like a 5-6 week span there.
I'm telling you, dude, here in like 10 years it's going to come out that like this was Quentin Tarantino's final film.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, dude, this is just, you cannot make this stuff up. You have to be a sick individual to do so. Alright, so latency, let's get to some week 1 storylines. Baltimore Ravens look like they're going to make us legitimately eat crow. We thought this team would be a team that would step back, but instead they set a franchise record with 59 points. Do you think we should buy into what we saw in week 1?
So it's really, really, really fortunate that they got to play week 1 against the South Florida Bison or Bulls.
They're terrible.
I mean, so all offseason we saw updates. Lamar Jackson looking like Peyton Manning at practice, throwing balls. The difference between practice and real games, you can actually get hit. Lamar Jackson was very, very fortunate to be playing a college team out there, knowing he's not going to get hit today.
Yeah, the USF Bulls would have put up a better fight.
Yeah. So, well, the ball he was throwing did look better. I'm not buying into him being this great, phenomenal passer just yet. I'm also not buying into Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown had 4 catches for 162 yards. He had 2 catches at 144 at one point in the game. So take away those 2 catches, he has 18 yards of offense.
Yes.
So while Marquise Brown is a great weapon, I'm not ready to lock him in at a Tyreek Hill week-to-week basis. Just quite yet.
No, neither am I. So latency, we're going to play a little game here, okay?
Okay.
And this is going to be the deciding factor on whether or not we buy into this team, okay?
Okay.
I think with your NFL knowledge, you could probably give me one player from each team, either offensive or defensive side of the ball. You think you could do that?
Oh, yeah. Easy.
Give me one defensive player that plays for the Miami Dolphins. One. I just want one. This is an easy game.
I feel like I have to know. I feel like I know a cornerback for them.
They actually do have a decent cornerback.
Yeah, I feel like I know a cornerback. I can't remember what his name is.
But this is ridiculous.
I just can't name one.
Okay, so that's going to say all that I need to know because I know your knowledge of the NFL. You could do that for every single team, offense or defense, doesn't matter. You could probably name 3 or 4.
Yeah.
On every single team. Mm-hmm. Okay, that says enough. And the fact that every single one of the Dolphins players went to their agent after the game and once traded, guys. Every single team that plays the Dolphins this year is going to go on an absolute explosion, and they're going to look like the best team you've ever seen.
Yes. But this Sunday, they play the Patriots in Miami. The Patriots are 4-6 in Miami, and they're like 219-30 everywhere else. So, that being said,
Fitzpatrick's back.
Bet the Dolphins plus 17.
Is it plus 17?
It's right now it's plus 16. projected to be plus 17.5 come kickoff time. So I'm saying once that hits 17 and you have 2 touchdowns and a field goal ahead at game time, take that bet.
That's where we get the Fitz magic. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So wait and see. Another team that looked absolutely dominant. The Patriots dismantle the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Does this say more about the success that we will see from the Patriots this year or the future failures we will see from the Steelers?
I'm with the failures of the Steelers because we knew losing Antonio Brown was going to be difficult. We knew the offense might not look awesome night one, but I don't think we met looking this bad. And part of that reason is because Dante Moncrief and James Washington couldn't pick up AB's slack at all. Dante Moncrief just straight up just dropped 3 passes, and James Washington looked like he wouldn't finish. I don't think he finished a route all night.
No.
It seemed like every ball thrown to him was 2 yards ahead of him all the time. Juju had a good game. James Conner looked good when they did run the football, but the offense definitely needs work, and the defense, they couldn't stop anything.
No.
Like, nothing.
You could realistically have this game 17-10 at halftime. This game should have been 17-10 at halftime. That's just if Dante Moncrief holds onto the ball. Mm-hmm. He had 3 drops that were just gimmies that he just, ball hit him, ball hit the ground. And I think that's more what we're going to see from the Steelers, because whenever they would get in those positions, hey, we need to get 3 yards on 4th down, you could just really run a curl with Antonio Brown or Juju Smith-Schuster, and they're just sure-handed guys, and they're going to catch the ball. Now that Bill Belichick or any other D coordinator in the NFL can really just double-team Juju, now you're down to who's going to make a play for me, and they legitimately don't have anybody that can catch the ball other than Juju.
Yeah, in today's NFL, it's too hard to go deep into the play. Like, you can win games, you can go 8-8 like this, but it's too hard to go deep into the playoffs, really beat good teams when you only have one receiving threat and a running back.
Yes.
And no matter how good they both are, if you double team the wide receiver, you're going to shut him down at least to an extent, and you can just stack the box. They have to have Vance McDonald, Dante Moncrief, James Washington pick up. Those 3 guys have to equal AB. That's what it is.
Yes, and I don't even think they're going to do that because, I mean, if you can't get a guy to be reliable on a 4th and 3, just a very simple catch, you don't have anything. I would rather have 3 wide receivers that are at least serviceable, that can out there and at least make a play from time to time. The Patriots have basically written the book on this over the past few years. You don't have to have 2 guys like Antonio Brown and Juju. You just have to have everybody around equal what those 2 guys were able to produce. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. So maybe the most disappointing team this year, maybe the most hyped team over the offseason. The Browns leave a lot to be desired on Sunday with a 43-13 loss to the Titans. Baker looked very, very rattled, had 3 interceptions, took a safety. Do you think the Browns should already be hitting the panic button?
No, I do not. I don't think Baker would look that rattled. His 3 interceptions all came in the 4th quarter, and I think they came for a specific reason. So in the first half, the Browns ran the football a total of 8 times. And like compared to the Chicago Bears on Thursday night, Mitchell Trubisky and Baker Mayfield are the same in the fact that they have to have a running game to be effective passing the ball because they have to make the defense respect the running game. Whenever they ran the ball 8 times and they go into halftime down, then they got to come back by passing the football. That's not what they do. Drake, how many times have we seen a running football team lose a game because they can't make up the points fast enough?
Oh, almost every single week you at least have one team. Tennessee Titans, any time they've ever been down. The Ravens last year, once they got into the postseason, every single week.
Yeah, and now they did end up running the ball 20 times, which that's an okay amount. That's an okay amount with what they have. But the fact that they were already down so much in the second half, they couldn't establish the game. That they couldn't take over the clock, basically, and they had to play into the Titans' hand.
Do you feel like it's kind of weird that they actually had more running attempts in the second half whenever the game started to get out of hand than what they did in the first whenever it was still in reach?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Absolutely no sense.
I don't understand why... Like Nick Chubb is awesome.
Very good.
He dominated last year when he came to lead back. He needs to have at least 10 carries in the first half. He needs to have probably more than that so they can really establish the game. Because the Browns are going to win game at Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 45 times a game. They will have games like that where he puts up humongous numbers, but those games are going to be like 45-40. A lot of games in the NFL are about you score 30 points to win the game, and they're going to have to score 28 points by controlling the football and running it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I feel like the reason why they weren't able to establish this run, I put a lot of this, a lot of the failures from the Browns this week on the offense and defensive line. You look at what the Titans were able to do. Basically, all they did was just basically win in the trenches. I mean, the Titans came out, had 4.4 yards per carry as a team. They had 5 sacks. Derrick Henry went off for a 75-yard screen pass, and the Browns got dismantled up front all season. What did they talk about? They talked about Baker Mayfield and the skill players that the Browns now have. Didn't mention anything about the offensive line, defensive line, nothing to that sort. You have to win in the trenches in order to be a successful team in the NFL. And unfortunately, the big boys just didn't get the job done for the Browns. And once it started spiraling out of control, it basically went back to what the Browns know. And that was just getting completely dominated from top to bottom. And that's why the game got so inflated. It was actually a good game leading up to halftime. Things just got out from underneath them, and it was bad. And it went in a hurry. I feel like the Browns are going to be that kind of team, though. I feel like they're either going to look awesome in a week or they're going to look like we saw this last week. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to happen like every other week, but they're going to either look really great or really bad.
See, the concern that I had now with what I saw yesterday is, will they at any point in time this year be able to put a whole game together?
Yes.
Because yesterday there was some drive in the second quarter. They look good on third quarter, then the fourth quarter is just absolute meltdown.
Yeah.
So can they put together the game at all this season?
So latency, it is time, staple of the show, for us to play darts. Each week, we throw darts at a dartboard. Each number represents something different, and we discuss the topic at hand. Latency, what is it for today?
This week, since the NFL started yesterday, and this is the Hot Take Show, I have a little bit of Hot Take Detective for you to play. To change it from darts.
Okay, so I'm completely down for that. So we will, I guess we'll end up throwing 4 total. That way we each get 2 throws, and we will talk about hot takes.
Okay.
So without further ado, latency, your throw. And we have a 12.
Andy Dalton will finish the season in the top 10 in passing yards and passer rating.
Ooh. Man. I think there's a possibility of that.
He looked good yesterday. Career game yesterday.
And John Ross looked good.
John Ross looked good. He looked fast.
John Ross is the John Ross we expected him to be.
Yeah, he's still very fast.
Latency, you go ahead and take the reins on this. You are not an Andy Dalton believer.
I'm an Andy Dalton believer. However, Sean McVay once breathed on Zach Taylor.
Yes.
Therefore, I have to have the faith. And seeing what I saw yesterday at the small sample size.
And that was a rainy day in Seattle,
Seattle.
In the rain.
I have to say he's going to do this.
I do too. I honestly think that this is a real possibility. I think Andy Dalton has weapons around him. I think this is still a team that's not going to win a ton of games. They're going to be playing from behind a lot, which is going to help with Andy Dalton. We're still waiting on the number 1 receiver to come back. I mean, I think once AJ Green comes back and John Ross keeps on this trajectory, we know what Tyler Boyd is. He's a very good move the chains wide receiver. You have 3 legitimate threats out wide. You have Giovanni Bernard, who can move the sticks out of the backfield, catching passes. I don't know what came out of the Joe Mixon thing. I know he got hurt, so we'll see what happens there. But I think that this is a legitimate case to be made. I think he's going to do this. Because Andy Dalton's not that bad. He just has had a lot of bad teams around him. And if you put a good coach and good skill players around a quarterback, this is what happens. So next, my throw. And we have a 4.
Todd Gurley will not see 20 carries in a game this season. Not touches, carries.
I agree.
So.
I agree 100%. Guys, we're looking at a guy, they were in the red zone with Malcolm Brown just basically pounding away, and it still worked. They used Todd Gurley only when they absolutely needed to. They may sneak 1 or 2 games by us, but I don't know if it's going to be any more than that. I think this Rams offense is good enough to get by with a guy serviceable like him, because Malcolm Brown looked good. Malcolm Brown looked very, very good. 20 carries, I'm going to say yes.
See, I didn't get 20K at some point in time because this is
Do you think it'll be more than 3, though?
more than 3 games.
More than 3 games.
Oh, man.
Because that was a close game the other day, and they only used him to ice the clock.
Yeah. I think it'll happen 3 times because he didn't play all in the preseason. He might just want to give him a little bit of work there. He still had 11 carries, 9-7 or something like that. And at some point in time,
11 carries in a close game.
Yeah, for week 1, he played all in the preseason. The knee is an issue, and they're aware of it.
And the degenerative knee issue is not going to get any better.
No, you're right. It's not. Because they call it degenerative. But some point in time this season, they're going to need him to run the ball for 2 or 3 quarters.
Postseason.
And he'll get 7 or 8 carries. He'll get 20 carries in the game this season at least once. 1,000%.
Okay.
My life on it.
All right. It's fine. It's good that we finally disagree on something.
Right?
Next up, latency, your throw. And we have an 18.
The Patriots will not be held to under 20 points all season.
This is tough.
It's hard not seeing their schedule, but going over what I saw last night, whenever they didn't have to be aggressive at all late in the game, still scoring 33 points, and adding Antonio Brown, and having basically no run game at all. Small sample size. I'm going to say that they're going to score at least 20 points every game this season.
I don't think so. I think there's going to be one game where it's freezing cold in Foxborough, where it's going to be by design. Bill Belichick is going to walk into the stadium saying, "We're going to win this game 17-6." Like, they have that game in their arsenal at least once or twice every single year, where we're going to turn around, hand the ball off to Jonas Gray 46 times. He'll run for 220 and we'll never use him again. I think that game, it's not going to be because they can't. It's going to be because Bill Belichick wants it to go that way, and they're just going to eat clock against a team that is very, very good. And I think it'll be one of those weird games like what we saw last year against the Chiefs early on. The game ended up getting busted open, but it's going to be against a team that they're just trying to keep the other team off the field.
Okay.
So that's where I'm leaning on that.
Okay.
So we disagree on that?
Yep.
Okay. And final throw. We have a 13.
The Miami Dolphins will not keep a game within single digits all season.
Ooh, now this one's
Now
good.
this could be plus or minus.
This is good.
I'll take the range. I think that they will keep a game within single digits. And I say that with much hesitance because
You're not confident.
unlike other bad teams before, the Browns, they were going 1-15, 0-16. They at least had some fight to win a game. The Dolphins players straight up said they weren't traded yesterday. Like, players literally texted their agent saying, "Get me the fuck out of Miami. This is a dumpster fire."
Yes.
So, but off that same logic, you gotta think now they're all planning to be traded. So I'm just thinking maybe they'll play really hard against a bad team and lose by 9.
I think that they will go 0-16. But I don't... So, therefore, I do think that they will keep at least one game close. At least a couple games close. This is going to be a very, very bad football team, though. This is like a historically bad team. And I feel confident saying that because nobody on this team wants to be there. I think that this team is going to be completely dismantled by the end of the season. I think they're going to continue to trade players away. I really feel bad for Brian Flores, who jumps straight out of being in New England into this dumpster fire. I don't think he knew what it was like to be on a bad football team, but here you go, buddy. You get the worst team maybe ever. And I think that they will at least keep one game within double digits. And that might be the game that Ryan Fitzpatrick brings the magic and they end up winning by 10. So it'll be very weird to watch this team for the season. All right, I like that game. That was fun, especially for a good week 1 overreaction Monday.
There were a ton of them.
So, latency. Week 2, college football games. Coach O gets his 11th top 25 win of his career at LSU, his 27th win total. That's just a mind-boggling stat in itself. Wins against Texas, 7-point victory. What does this say about the totality of these teams for the 2019 season?
So, for the totality of these two teams, it means that Texas isn't back quite yet.
No.
They still have work to do. They will be. They're going to be a bowl team this season. They're going to have a very good year. They just aren't going to beat these top tier teams that how the veterans aren't just yet. And for LSU, it said, hey, Joe Burrow just put up a record for passing. We have 30 over 100 yards. Yeah, our defense played bad, but offense could pick it up. And if they can do that now, maybe people said maybe they could actually beat Alabama.
Yes. That will be a fun game.
I can't wait for that game.
That's going to be the first Alabama LSU game that I might think about betting the over on.
Yeah, but for the totality of the whole season, I'm going to this real quick. You talked about for the past 2 or 3 years how the gap for the SEC is starting to close with other teams. I think it's widened back out a whole lot now.
Yes,
because
it flipped right back on.
Think about the first 2 weeks of the season. We had Auburn beat Oregon. We had LSU beat Texas, both on the road. Oregon might win the Pac-12. Texas was a team who talked about winning the Big 12.
Yes.
Those two teams aren't even mentioned to win the SEC title because of Alabama and Georgia.
Yes.
And Florida beat Miami on opening night. So those 3 teams beat 3 very good teams from other conferences that are up until their conference. So I think that the gap has, out of nowhere, opened up again to a humongous margin.
I'm glad that that's the spin you had out of this. I was hoping you were going to go in that direction because I absolutely agree with you. And if you look at how Texas was supposed to be this year, what did we hear about this Texas team outside of Sam Ehlinger and Tom Herman? What was supposed to be their strong point?
Defensive back, the defense.
The defense, the DBU,
DBU, yes,
is what they thought that they were. Guys, we're looking at an Ed Orgeron team that just went out there and put up 45 points against Texas. I'm going to rattle off to you the teams that gave up 45 points to LSU since Ed Orgeron has been the head coach. LSU scored 45 points against Ole Miss last year. Everybody scored 45 points on Ole Miss. They were 114th out of 130 teams in college football on the defensive side of the ball. They scored 45 points against Chattanooga. They scored 45 points against Texas A&M in 2017 and 2016, and Southern Miss in 2016. Out of 35 games, this team has put up 45 points 5 times. And Texas, who's supposed to be this elite defense, is one of those teams that they have now put up 45 points on. You look at Joe Burrow, he set a career high in passing yards, he set a career high in passing attempts, and he broke his career high in passing yards by 77 yards. It was the second highest completion percentage he's ever had behind Georgia Southern, and it was his second highest quarterback rating behind the game that he played against Georgia Southern, and it was the second most touchdowns he scored in a game outside of Georgia Southern. So we're talking about a Texas defense that's supposed to be back. Now we're back comparing them to Georgia Southern, and I just think that this kind of knocks Texas back to reality, and you have this quarterback that every time you get into a goal line situation, what does Texas do? They just use their big boys up front to run forward, and Sam Ehlinger gets behind that offensive line and runs right behind them and scores legitimately every time they're in the red zone. They had back-to-back red zone opportunities within the 8-yard line, and they blew both of them away because guess what? That offensive line ran into a brick wall and got pushed back every single time they were down on the goal line. This is not a good look for Texas. They got out-physicaled by a team in Auburn who's not even the most, in LSU, who's not even the most physical team in the SEC. I couldn't imagine if they went against a full squad Georgia team. I know they played Georgia last year, and they beat them in a bowl game, but nobody played. So you can't look at that. I think that Latency hit it perfectly. The gap between the SEC and everybody else, we're back there, and I think Clemson's the only team that even muddies the water for me outside of the SEC. So a team that's not actually in the SEC, but I think that they have done enough to get onto our radar. Maryland knocks off Syracuse by a total of 63-20. They have now outscored opponents 142-20 this season. Is Maryland a team that we should put on the radar for the remainder of this season?
So, I do think they will put up a lot of points against bad defenses. But
Syracuse was tough last year, though.
They were tough last year. This is a new year, though, Drake.
I know, but you have to at least buy into it a little bit.
I bought into a little bit. I did buy into a little bit. I think they'll put up points all year. I think when they play a Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State back to back weekly in the year. I think those games, by the time Michigan State, it might be a little worn out. Might only score 30, but I think they put up some points. And Josh Jackson,
he can ball.
We knew he was talented at Virginia Tech. I didn't think when he transferred to Maryland, anybody thought he was going to be outscoring opponents by over 100.
Is he the best player that entered the transfer portal last year?
Arguably, yes.
Arguably, yes.
Through 2 weeks, actually football season, it's definitive yes. Come week 13, who knows? But through 2 weeks, definitive answer is yes.
Yeah. You know what's funny though about this is that the dark horse for the Big Ten comes out of the side of the conference that basically everybody else is on. Mm-hmm. So now I feel like we're in a weird spot outside of Wisconsin. The best 6 teams in the Big Ten are all in the same side of the division. I really like the offense. You know, if you look at the head coach, Mike Locksley, he's the mastermind behind Tua's absolutely huge season last year. He was the Alabama offensive coordinator, slid right in with a very good quarterback with Josh Jackson, like Leighton had talked. The guy can spread the ball around. The offense is identical to what you saw in Alabama last year. You have guys running wide open. Mm-hmm. And Josh Jackson's just making the right plays. That's all he's doing, and he's doing a fine job at it. I like the fact that he is more of a pocket passer than them trying to actually get him out and run. I love this Maryland team. I think that this team right now, from what I've seen, I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the Big Ten. I think that they're better than Michigan from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, Michigan's underwhelmed heavily.
I think that I like Wisconsin, I like Ohio State, and then I think Maryland might be your 3rd best team in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for them to play a legitimate opponent, though. Now, I'm not blowing Syracuse off. Syracuse 10-3 team last year, well coached, but this Maryland team is very, very scary, I think, going forward. Do you think there's any way that they can win the Big Ten, though?
I really don't.
I think it'll be shocking.
For as good as the offense is, they're going to come up with defenses that are probably equally as good, and there's going to be kind of a stalemate at some point. That kind of like with Ohio State, I feel like they could score on Ohio State, but I feel like there's no way they stop Ohio State from scoring enough.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I like this team against Michigan, though.
Dude, Michigan looks, I mean, I don't know what it is. Like we talked about last week, it's like for a month now. This is their year to beat Ohio State. Like, this is Jim Harbaugh's chance to prove that he was with the high at Michigan, and they should have lost to Army.
Yeah, if Army didn't...
Like, not saying Army's a bad program. They've been pretty good the last 4 or 5 seasons, but, I mean, Michigan should house Army when they play them.
Yeah, every single time. And, you know, if Army doesn't throw that pass inside Michigan's red zone, we are seriously looking at a game or a week where Army ends up beating Michigan. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the John Harbaugh that, unfortunately, we've kind of grown to be accustomed to at this point. So, latency, let's go ahead and look forward to week 3, college football preview. We have some decent games this week. We have Stanford traveling to UCF. I don't know what the update about KJ Costello is. I know he's in the concussion protocol, so we'll know more about that later this week. The concussion protocol is such an odd thing, with whether or not, you know, one day it could look like the guy's going to be out for a while, the next day, here he is. So, first up, Stanford at UCF. UCF is actually a 7-point favorite in this game. Who do you like in this game? Just win or lose?
I'm with UCF. Last week, David Mills against USC didn't look awful, but it's UCF at Florida. For one, that's a very long plane ride. Like you can't get much farther, probably, than UCF from Stanford. And to UCF, a team, honestly, I just want to cheer for because they're like the small town dynasty right now. Like, they won't go undefeated every single year and never get there. And it's one of those things where you want them to win.
Yeah, I want them to win, and I think they're going to win. You know, there was questions about the quarterback position for UCF. You know, you had your 2 dogs that you had last year go down with injury. But they're making do, and they're putting up a ton of numbers. And this team is super talented. You know, every single year you have guys going into the draft from UCF, and it gets overlooked on how many guys are on NFL rosters from UCF. So they have the talent to play against Stanford. I think they have the talent to beat Stanford. I think this could be a game that Stanford just gets ran off the field. I think UCF's going to put up a ton of numbers. I don't think without KJ Costello that Stanford's going to be able to put up much of a fight on the offensive side of the ball. I have UCF winning this game and probably a runaway. Next up, this is probably the best game on our radar for this week. We have Iowa going to Iowa State. Iowa State is getting 1.5 points. Who do you like?
I like Iowa State. Iowa State's a team I talked about early in the season, when they talked about teams that could come up into the playoff conversation, they would turn a ton of stars. They're at home against an in-state rival, and I just think they're gonna pull this one out. Tough game though.
Yeah, I this is like the ultimate grit and grind game every single year. I like that it's at Iowa State for Iowa State. I think that there was a lot that needed to be fixed with this Iowa State team. You and I thought that they would be playing in the Big 12 title game first week out of the gates. They end up running into UNI and end up having to win in overtime.
3 overtimes.
3 overtimes. So it was a very, very ugly game, but they did manage to leave with the win. They had a bye week last week, so they had time to basically fix everything which went wrong in that game. I'm still an Iowa State believer. I think Iowa State is able to pull off this win at home. Seeing that Iowa State always pulls off those wins when they're unranked, playing a team that's ranked coming into Iowa State. They play the underdog role probably better than anybody in college football and college basketball.
Yeah.
Is it not? I mean, at home, that's where it's at. Latency, lock bet of the week.
So I got 2 for you this week. Number 1 is Virginia playing Florida State. They're at Virginia, and Virginia is giving up 7 points. This Florida State team is bad.
They're terrible.
Like, they are really a bad football team, and we talk about playing for a name on your helmet. That's what they are doing. Like, they are really just playing because they're Florida State. They have to play good football. Virginia this season, they're ranked now. They're pretty tough. I like them to cover that spread. And the other one is USC at BYU. Like I told you last week, don't know why. I always cheer for USC a little bit. The new kid came in at first name, but he set a true freshman record for passing in his debut.
Rookie.
Giving up 4 points at BYU. BYU did beat Tennessee at Tennessee last week. A very impressive win. But I have faith in USC going there and win this game by more than 4 points.
I actually like both of those. Especially betting against Florida State. Guys, you should be doing that every single week. My first one, by the way, I'm never going to bet on Chip Kelly again. I am very sorry for giving you that as my lock bet last week. Guys, this is a completely different team that Chip Kelly's basically ever coached. They're terrible. UCLA is a terrible football team, and I think the Pac-12 in general is basically a bad football conference. That's really what it is. First up, Wake Forest. They are -3 against UNC. I know Wake Forest is good. People think UNC is good. I really like this offense for Wake Forest. They can put up a ton of points. You look at what they did against Rice last week. I know it's Rice, but Rice played a 7-point game against Army earlier this year, and Army almost went into the Big House and beat Michigan. I know it's weird to kind of do those parody things in college football, but I'm going to buy into it a little bit this week. Wake Forest was able to keep pace and actually beat Utah State, a team that I really think is good. They were very good last year, brought back their quarterback. They were able to outscore them, which is a team that is very, very hard to outscore. I love Wake Forest this week. And also, I'm going Oklahoma. They are -21.5 point favorites against UCLA. Guys, UCLA scored 14 points against San Diego State and scored 14 points again against Cincy. Betting against Oklahoma is basically saying you don't think that Lincoln Riley is going to put up 35 points.
Yep.
I really think that that's where you get yourself into. I think Oklahoma is going to absolutely trounce UCLA. So, Latency, top 25 teams that are on upset alert.
Not really many this week. This week kind of a just down week.
Tough week.
I see Houston beating Washington State, but I think that's just off of like what I've come to know about those two things. I understand that Tom Herman is at Houston. Houston does have some players still from Tom Herman. Another one is Iowa State. I think Iowa State will win that game against Iowa.
Yeah. I didn't go with the Iowa State one because I do think they're going to win, and we talked about that one. So, guys, just a little piece of information for you. I've given you 2 top 25 teams that were on upset alert. Those teams went out and won 42-0 and 49-0. So, my teams are getting outscored 91-0. So, take that for what it's worth. I do think Kentucky has a chance to beat They have a chance to beat Florida this week, though. Kentucky is a very sound team. They lost a lot last year, but yet again, they seem to just reload and keep every single game close, no matter who they're playing. They're not blowing anybody out. They were able to beat two mediocre teams this year. They were able to beat Toledo with a very impressive win against Toledo, a team that always sneaks up and plays close games against big opponents. Florida did not look impressive against Miami. I know that they were able to still get the win. Miami just lost last week to UNC, so I do like Kentucky this week. What game are you interested in the most?
The one I care about the most is definitely UCLA and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's defense hasn't looked awful the first 2 weeks, but can Chip Kelly score on them?
No.
Is the question.
No.
If he can't figure it out this week,
quarterback change.
We think he gets fired, honestly. It has to be coming, right?
I don't know, man. Just because the talent level just looks like a huge discrepancy between him and who he's playing, and it's San Diego State and Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA, they're not going to ever get great football prospects.
No. It's so weird.
Yeah.
They're in a weird spot there. The game I'm most interested in, Leighton actually brought it up earlier, Friday night, we get Washington State versus Houston. It's at NRG Stadium, so it's going to be indoors, two of the most fast offenses in the NCAA. You have Dana Holgerson versus Mike Leach. I expect 2,000 points. No less than 2,000 points.
Did you see what that game, that game's called?
What's it called?
Advocator Texas Kickoff. Week 3 of the season, I had the kickoff game in Texas. Every Texas team that's played.
That is awesome. It's Advocare, man. What did you expect?
It's Advocare. I can't say what Advocare really is or does for you.
I don't know what Advocare is.
But, it's Advocare.
Yeah, they're having their kickoff, man. This is the fourth week we've had college football. Now we get the Texas kickoff.
It's time for this kickoff. Advocare.
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to be interested with Dana Holgerson now because, they have a quarterback that has to run to be successful. And what do we know about Washington State's defensive line is that they're a bunch of, really small, fast guys. So I think that'll be an interesting little chess game that those two are going to be playing. So, wait and see. Let's get to a little MLB chatter. Basically, we're just going to talk about guys that probably won't be there for the remainder of the season. We have Javi Baez, could be out for the remainder of the season with a thumb fracture. Is this the final injury nail in the Cubs' coffin this season?
So, I would say yes. But fortunately for the Cubs, they play the Cardinals and the Brewers, I think, 11 more times this year combined.
7 against the Cardinals.
7 against the Cardinals, yes. So, the 4.5 back in the division, I think they're 2.5 back of the wild card. So they can still easily make this up. The big question for them is though the bullpen. We know Craig Kimball's on the IL. Not sure if he'll come back for the postseason or not. The whole team's on the IL. Basically, can somebody gut up and help the starting pitchers out? Because the team can score runs. Losing higher Baez doesn't help that very much. But, the Cubs are still a very strong baseball team.
This is it, Leighton. We're done. This is the end of the run. I hate to say it, too. You lose the bullpen, the entire bullpen. I think we had 4 guys go on the IL within the same week and a half. Nothing's really gotten any better. Even though we win games, I know we had a stretch where we won 7 of 9, looking very, very good. And we didn't gain any ground on the Cardinals. The Cardinals are using that just pixie dust magic shit that makes me mad every single year. I think this season's done, man. I really do. I no matter how good people pitch, we still find ways to lose games. You had Darvish pitch one of his best outings this season, doesn't give up a run. I know he throws a ton of pitches, so he was out of there in 5 innings. Still find a way to lose the game. Something has to happen. It's got to be a miracle. I'm praying for a Windy City miracle, late and see, but I think this season's over. I do. Man, that hurts to say, especially with the Cardinals winning. I can handle the Brewers winning, but not the Cardinals. Next up, Michael Pineda. This time it's not for Pine Tar, but he is suspended for the remainder of the season. I feel like this is our 100th pitcher suspended for PEDs, in the last 2 years. How much does this affect the remainder of the season for the Twins and ultimately their chances to win the World Series? So,
Michael Pineda wasn't a great pitcher for him. He had a 4.09 ERA. The problem here is he was so much better than the replacement.
Yes.
And the Twins have the top offense in all baseball, so The entire game is keep the opponent under 4 or 5 runs. And like when they were doing that, he had a 4.09 ERA, gave him 4 runs a game, or 4.9, and he probably gave 3 or 4 runs actually a game. But he was what the Twins needed.
Yes.
He was going to give them 6 to 7 innings tonight and allow 4 or fewer runs.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that, man. It's hard to win games in the postseason whenever you don't have the starting pitching to do so. No matter who says what, you have to have it. And like Leighton said, he's not the best guy in the world that you're throwing out there. It's not like you're losing a Clayton Kershaw, but his replacement is going to be much worse than what Pineda had. And he always has a handful of games, and he can get on a hot streak where he's throwing 6-7 innings every single night of good baseball. And unfortunately, in the postseason, unfortunately for the Twins, I think this does hamper them. It's not like losing a great player, but I think this does hamper their chances in the playoffs, more so than this back-end run. I think they'll still win the division, but I think this sets back their title chances just a little bit. So, let's wrap the show up with saucy six-pack of games. Leighton C., first on the slate, we have the Colts at the Titans.
So the Titans looked really good yesterday.
Yes, they did.
And, that was shocking. So, the Colts look really good too, but the Titans, they look phenomenal. I'm going to go with the Titans, hot hand.
I'm going with the Colts, because every time we get too high on the Titans, what happens?
They score 5 points.
Yes.
Literally 5 points. They will get a safety.
Yes, they will legitimately get a safety, look like they're firing on all cylinders, and then bam, they get a field goal to end out the game. I'm going with the Colts. I think the Colts shown a lot this week. They're a team that was more than Andrew Luck. Obviously, you have to have Andrew Luck if you're wanting to win the Super Bowl. But I think this is an 8-8 football team. This is a team that can make some noise. This is a team that could possibly make it into the postseason. I'm going with the Colts because we've seen the Titans do this before. Vikings at the Packers.
I'm going to go with the Vikings. They looked awesome last week. Cook Cousins went through 10 passes. That's what Mike Zimmer wants. That is not sustainable to win in 2019 football. But I do think this year they will what I'm looking for here, Drake, hinder how often he can throw the football.
Yes.
Because that's what Mike Zimmer wants to do.
Yeah, I'm going with the Vikings as well. I think they have the better offense and they have the better defense. It's easy to keep your quarterback from getting sacked if you throw the ball 10 times. I absolutely love it. I was not impressed much with the Matt LaFleur play calling. It's definitely not as good as what even Dirk Cutter did last week against the Vikings. I think this is a game that the Vikings are going to win, and it has potential to get ugly. Seahawks at the Steelers.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. The game is at Pittsburgh. I do think it's going to be a closer game. I think the Steelers will look drastically better than they looked last night. But the Seahawks, I think, are going to be a very tough team all year, very tough out. I think they will go on the road and win this game.
I think the Seahawks do go on the road and win this game. I think this is one of the most entertaining games, though, on this slate for this week. I think the Steelers, what we saw from them yesterday was not the Steelers team we're going to see for the remainder of the season. I think they're actually going to be able to put up points. I think this is going to be a very fun game. I think it has a potential to be a high-scoring game even. But I like the Seahawks to get the job done. Saints at the Rams. This was a very, very fun time when they played last year. Saints ultimately ended up winning, but who wins this matchup?
I'm going to go with the Rams. It's in LA, away from the Dome. Last year, I came on the show and said that I thought the Rams were a better team than the Saints. If that game was in LA last year, the Rams would have won it probably. The Rams have been this year. I expect the Saints to start regressing this season, and then to take this game.
Yeah, the Saints basically outplayed them both times that they played last year. They outplayed them in the Dome. They outplayed them, it was in the Dome both times. They outplayed them in the regular season and the postseason. But the Rams ended up getting the last laugh. I think I did the numbers on it last year. I don't think that the Rams led for a single minute in either one of those games. I think that the Saints are the better team. And Sean Payton, I think he's going to be able to get the job done. I really like this team. I expect a little regression from the Rams. I expect a little bit from the Saints too. But early season, if this was Week 16, I'd be a little more leery. Is this the game Todd Gurley gets his 20 carries?
No.
No? Okay.
Well, you know what?
This could be.
He'll get 20.
Okay.
He'll get more than 11.
Somewhere around like 16.
16. They have 16, yeah.
Eagles at the Falcons.
It's a Sunday night football game.
Sunday Night Football.
I'm gonna go with the. It's a tough one.
This is a very tough one.
I'm gonna go with the Falcons. They looked abysmal yesterday against the Vikings, but now going back home, I think Matt Ryan, your veteran quarterback, he'll ride the troops. Going to calm, no need to panic. You're 0-1. Last week's loss really hurts, but they'll go in this game and they'll win it. The offense will show up this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Falcons do win this game in the Dome. This will be a very fun game. You look at what happened last week. Case Keenum made that Eagles defense look very pedestrian. So, name one guy outside of Vernon Davis that he was throwing to.
Some guy named
McLaren or something?
McLaren.
Okay, is McLaren, is he Julio Jones?
No.
Is he Calvin Ridley?
No.
Okay. I expect a ton of points from the Falcons. Falcons win this game. Browns at the Jets. I think that basically this is Monday Night Football. Loser of this game, they can wrap the season up.
You know what I hate to see? I hate the Browns playing bad yesterday and having a national TV next week.
Yes.
I hate to see that.
Yeah, hate to see it.
Hate to see that. I'm going to go with the Jets in this game. I mean, the Buffalo Bills are a tough football team. The Jets didn't look that great yesterday, but neither did the Browns. I'm a big Sam Darnold guy. I'm excited to watch this game next week.
I'm actually very excited for this game. I think this will be a more fun game than what should be. I expect the Jets to hopefully throw the ball to Robbie Anderson if they want any chance to win this season. Mm-hmm. Robbie Anderson was gone on back-to-back plays, but Sam Darnold just missed him, and that would have ultimately won the game for the Jets. I do think that the Browns, though, since they are the talk of the town this week, will get their things together, and they will ultimately win this game. I think this is going to be a very chippy game from the Browns. Mm-hmm. I expect a big game from Odell Beckham Jr. I see this being one of the games that OBJ, it's going to be on his highlight tape. Yeah. You know, back against the wall, everybody's talking bad about the team. I think this gets him out of the rut. So, Latency, it is time to put you in the spotlight. Each week you go out and you watch movies, and you bring in one to review. What do you have for us today?
So, the end of Hard Knocks, Oakland Raiders. And I mean, man, same shit, different week. But this week, Antonio Brown practice. And so, basically, here's how it starts out every week. Starts off with a coach, just to John Gruden, last one. Talk to the team about the guy who's going to get cut. This is the last chance to prove their own spot on the team, blah, 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 blah. Cut away to practice. Antonio Brown looks really, really good practice. Then they have the game. Same shit, man. It's just the same thing. But this
replay.
It's what it seems like, and it's really sad. But first real quick. Then they go into Mike Mayock's office. I think his office, John Gruden's office. Who the fuck knows anymore? And they break down the guys who's gonna get cut, and then they bring the guys in. They cut them. This year, unlike last year. You don't really have any emotional ties to the guys getting cut. Like HBO really botched that part of the show this year. Like at the point you just don't care about the guys who could be cut, and then that's the show.
That's crazy.
It closes out on John Gruden getting another speech to the players who made the team before they go play week 1, and of course they just happen to miss all the AB drama.
That's unfortunate.
At all. So, like everybody knows, this season Hard Knocks, huge disappointment. Episode no different. 1.5 dips.
What would you give the totality of the season?
1.
1?
Because, yeah, and I know I didn't give any episode score that low, but I feel like for a show to work, the show has to be better than the sum of its parts.
Right.
And it wasn't. Because I say out of the 5 hours of stuff I watched, I probably really cared about 30 to 45 minutes. And that's just not enough. I mean, not HBO's fault because the Raiders can only give them so much, but it's a 1.
Yeah, that's absolutely abysmal. So, Latency, any bold predictions this week?
What's it for this week? I'm going to go against you. I'm going to bet this week the Cubs are in the playoffs this time next week.
I think Gardner Minshew puts up 300 passing yards this week against the Texans and pulls out a win for the Jaguars.
All right.
Anything else before we wrap this show up?
The Red Sox fired their baseball head of operations last night around midnight. They had no press conference for it today. So yeah, just I guess trying to make sure that never happened. I don't know.
That's very weird.
Very mixed bag of emotions here, but yeah.
And on that note, for Drake, for Latency, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.